We're joined now by Enia Krivine, Senior Director of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy's Israel program. Enia, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So despite Iran denying all this, there is a constant stream of evidence that they were directly involved in planning and executing the Hamas attacks on October 7th. What kind of evidence would it take for Israel to attack them directly?
That's a great question. Thanks again for having me. So we've seen indications that Iran has been involved since just a couple of days after the initial attacks. But what we do know, irrespective of any hard evidence that comes in, is that Iran has trained, funded, and equipped Hamas and other terrorist organizations on Israel's borders for decades. So even whether or not we get hard facts or evidence or a paper trail in the coming weeks as this is looked into, we know for a fact that they are absolutely complicit in everything that's happened today, to date. So we have the Wall Street Journal report that came out, like I said, a couple days in after the conflict, that said that Iran had green lighted the operation in just in weeks leading up to the attack. We know that the Hezbollah, Hamas, two Iranian-backed terrorist organizations had been meeting regularly with Iran in preceding months. And now this recent article that you've cited about the alleged militant Hamas terrorists training in Iran in September. So when I saw that report, I was really astounded, and I talked to some of the experts as to how could this happen? You know, if Gaza is under a military blockade, which it has been since it began attacking Israel with rockets, Israel conducted a military blockade so that humanitarian resources could get in, but they were trying to prevent missiles and rockets and other munitions from entering Gaza. So you have this military blockade. How, in the condition of a military blockade, do 500 fighters, 500 terrorists get all the way to Tehran? Well, you can use your imagination. We know for a fact that there are active tunnels between Gaza and Egypt that Hamas runs. They use it for smuggling. They use it for moving human people and human capabilities in and out of Gaza. So we can imagine that if this did happen, they would have gone out into Egypt through those tunnels. And there are direct flights from Cairo to Tehran. So it's feasible. We don't have hard evidence. I expect that Israel is digging in. I expect that U.S. intelligence is also digging in. And I hope that we have more facts in the coming days.
So, Enia, the U.S. has carried out now airstrikes on 2 armed storage facilities in Syria as retaliation. Does this represent a major escalation between the U.S. and Iran?
I wouldn't call this a major escalation. We have a pattern of U.S. forces in Syria being attacked. This goes back weeks and months. And sadly, it is just a level of violence that our troops have become accustomed to in Syria. So I wouldn't call this a significant escalation. But I would say that given all of the other activity we're seeing, given the carrier strike groups in the Eastern Med, given the fact that missiles from Yemen have been intercepted now multiple times by U.S. ships, given the fact that Hezbollah is in a constant now low-grade tit-for-tat with Israel, I would say in the context of all of that, yes, the U.S. response is significant. But again, it's just the latest in a long series of Iranian attacks on our military in Syria. And I would also say that given the damage to our troops, given the fact that just this week it was released that there was much more significant damage than we had originally assumed when we learned about those attacks, I would say that this is quite a measured response from the administration. And I think that the administration's #1 goal right now is preventing a regional escalation at all costs.
So Saudi Arabia is out today saying that if Israel does continue their ground invasion in Gaza, it could potentially have devastating impacts on the stability of the Middle East. What would those impacts be?
So Gaza that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Gaza is a very small strip of land. It's about 20 20 miles long. It's along the Mediterranean coast. I don't know. I suppose that Iran has continued to threaten Israel and the West. And actually, the Iranian foreign minister was in New York just this week, and he threatened Americans in New York City at Turtle Bay. He said that if what continues in Gaza goes on, Americans will not be spared from the fire. So this is the Iranian foreign minister threatening us on our soil. So I think that what he would like to see is he is trying to bring in the Israelis. He's trying to scare the Israelis and saying, if you don't reel the Israelis in, you will suffer the consequences in other arenas. And I don't think that the U.S. needs to take threats from the Iranian regime that way. And I think that this very measured response to the attack on our troops was not the right message to send. I think the U.S. has to respond with force. And in order to deter Iran, they have to show Iran that they will back up their words and their allies with actions that will make a difference on the ground.
A very tense situation right now. Enia, really appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.